I want to thank everybody for watching and interacting with that video that I posted yesterday about the Rotherham grooming gangs. I may have said Rotherham, but it's Rotherham. See, I'm Dutch, so I mispronounced it. But some actual victims and relatives of victims contacted me in my private messages asking me for help if I could reach out to them. I'm a Dutch citizen living in the Netherlands, so I can't really do much for the UK. But it does tell me a lot that people reach out to me rather than to their own politicians. Apparently, there is no one in the UK willing to help you. Now, what I can do is to keep speaking about it, and I will. I will speak more about these and other topics related to it. But let's also take a step back, perhaps, to see the grander picture. What I first and foremost want to understand is, why on earth is this happening at all? Why doesn't anybody in the UK, for example, your military, step in and to crack this problem, crack down on it and do away with it just overnight? They could do it, I think, but they won't. What interests are at play over here? I have noticed, of course, since the perpetrators of these grooming rape attacks tend to be people, men of one certain demographic, mostly 80% of them, there's immediately a sort of a counter response, a political counter response says, oh, we cannot really mention these people or defame them because that might help the far right. Really? How exactly would it help the far right? Would it help the far right crack down on the problem? And you don't want that, right? So that's really weird. Like they're immediately protecting a class of people simply because they produce most of the offenders. That's extremely weird. So we need to understand why that is so. And I've noticed something, that it is really a problem of class. It is the highly educated white people, right? And some will mention small hats added into it. But if you look closely, it is definitely the class of highly educated people who seem to feel a tremendous hatred for their own kind, for their own working classes, for example. And they enjoy allying themselves with far larger groups of foreigners, for example, people of Southeast Asia or South Asia, people from, Latin America or from Africa. These are far larger groups of people, right? There's like more than 1 billion people living in Africa, more than 1 billion in India. If you could tap into those quote-unquote human resources, because that's how they see people, of course, as resources to be exploited, right, and used and abused, well, then maybe we could make more money, or maybe we could, win more power on the global stage if we could just, quit caring about our own class. And that certainly plays a role. But whatever they call it, whichever way they phrase it as, openness, open borders, open society, inclusion, diversity, equality, or equity, or whatever they call it, right? They use a lot of fancy words like progress and multiculturalism. But all those words, if you look at the base of it all, mean one and the same thing. Treason. All those fancy words mean treason. You are dealing with a class of educated people in our own countries, be it in Germany, in France, or in the UK, right? And they somehow, for some reason, maybe feel that the life they got wasn't good enough, even though they are well paid and most of them are very wealthy and rich, right? But they feel like they didn't get the life that they wanted, and they want to have revenge on their own nation, on their own people. And how to do it? On their own, they couldn't do it. With their friends, they couldn't do it. Right? Because the common people would crush them in a fair fight. And so they ally themselves with foreigners who also hate us. See? So our own leaders are in bed with the enemy. They are traitors. Right? So to me, it's not even a game of conservative versus labor, or right versus left, or Democrats versus Republicans. I see those always as two wings of the same bird. Right? These political people, maybe the conservatives will slap you in the face, but then the Labour Party will fine you if you dare to talk about it. See, so they work together, right? They work together against the people, safeguarding their far more interesting or more important foreign interests. What we have to do, however, is realize that there is a natural limit, a sort of boundary to the treason that these people can inflict upon us. Namely, if you think about it closely, it starts, for example, with Germany or with the UK. Then they get people in from Europe, Eastern Europe, then North Africa, then the Middle East, India, right? And then Africa, Nigeria, Eritrea, and so on. But there's an end there. The globe does not produce infinite humans, right? After Indians and after Nigerians, there is no one else to replace them, meaning the migration flows will dry up. For example, no one will go to India to be Indian people's migrants to replace them. That's not going to happen. You know, in the meantime, countries like Turkey, right, also suffer from aging demographics. Turkey also needs immigrants now to take care of its elderly, like the same problem we have, they have it now too, and that problem is going to move out. And so you see that billionaires like Elon Musk or the leaders in the UK, like they love the Indians, but there's no infinite Indians. It's going to end. There's a limit, a natural boundary to the treason that they can inflict upon us. And when we understand this, all we have to do is be a little more patient, because in the next 5 to 10 or no more than 15 years, the balance is going to shift in our favor again. And our leaders who have betrayed us all these decades will no longer be able to continue playing their game of treason. It will come to an end. And we will then arrest all the traitors and punish them in a public square.